Welcome back. I don't like I just pressed the wrong button and the video stopped. So I'm continuing from the conversation of men and their preferences. The last the video before this one. So as I was saying, it's noticeable that some men, right, will pick their bodies, their preferences, and they don't come across as baddies themselves, right? So you wonder what their attraction is, and some people will jokingly say things like, oh, they want they mention a gospel artist with a sprinkle of a secular pop rap female artist and so on, and they just they want a gospel artist with a pop artist with a and so on, like somebody who is a combination of both, you know and they talk about that, and you're just wondering, like, is it that you are confused or you are confused? Like, there's just no option. You are confused, but okay. And so they pick them, and like I said, I mean, they are women, right? Baddies or not, that is just a category of women, like I said. And they get going, they get into a relationship, sometimes they get married, and like I said, I'm an advocate of marry somebody that you really want to marry, you understand, unless you have gotten to that level where who you need who you really need in your life has is now blended with who you want in your life. Because for men, these are two different things. Oh, the women they need and the woman they want, most of the time they differ, and it has to do with their level of how well cooked they are on the inside, how psychologically sound they are, how whole they are from the inside. Like, you can tell from a man or woman's choice in marriage or relationship, the the kind of trauma that they are, like, that they've not healed. Some haven't healed. You can tell a whole person from somebody who is running away from being whole. Like, they're not making wholeness a priority. They're just ignoring it and denying it. You can tell from somebody who is whole and somebody who is in denial, the kind of people they choose to be with, the kind of people they choose to be in a relationship with. You can tell. And so when you see a guy that looks like he's a church guy, like he sounds like a church guy, he condemns the life of baddies. Do you understand? Like, he condemns the life of baddies. He does not he encourages and speaks so well of women who are not baddies, but he ends up marrying one. You get, and you now wonder, is are you okay? Like, nah, you ain't okay. But whatever. She's a woman. Maybe there is something you just, as a good woman yourself, I'm not talking about the ones that say they are good and then they hate women who don't don't actually commit to being good. They don't portray themselves as good, and they hate them because, for one, they are the ones that um the men they are with cheat. How will I put it now? Like, when they are with a man, these are the women that they cheat with on them, if you get my drift. Like, I'll give you an instance. Like, you as a woman, a good woman that you are, well dressed, you're modest in your dressing and all of that. You're just there having this conversation with this seemingly settled guy. There's a difference between a guy that portrays himself as settled and a guy that is actually really settled. So you hear you're having a conversation with a guy that seems that he's settled, and you're having a conversation about maybe modesty, and you're talking about it's a good thing when you cover up yourself and you don't expose your sensitive too much skin, so to speak. That you cover up yourself and stuff, and you talk about that. And whilst you're talking about that, a lady who is scantily dressed, that has less clothing on her person, like there is hardly anything that she isn't covering much of anything, as a matter of fact, and she's passing by. And then this same man who was vehement and supportive of, modest dressing is now gawking and drooling and salivating over this lady that is wearing less. And you're there like, are you a liar or what? Like, you say one thing, but your actions betray you as something else. So, by the time good women face that kind of situation too often, sometimes they become bitter against the wrong people. They become bitter against, their fellow women, that they are the ones who are distracting the men and stuff. And for me, I'm like, look, a confused man is not one that any woman who is whole should be with. You get. So if he's in support of good women association, but he goes for the bad women association, like, I think his actions tell you what he really is, and you should be grateful you dodged that bullet, I should think. That's how I think. Oh. So what is my complaint about? Again, like I said, I'm laying the foundation so that you understand where I'm coming from, right? So they pick their women and all, and then they now have issues. Not all the time. Some of them go on to, live happily ever after, right? But in a situation where they live unhappily ever after, and it spills out of the privacy of their relationship, and then it spills on social media. And instead of the men to address the person that has hurt them directly, maybe they get into an issue of paternity fraud, a situation where the woman became unfaithful, or the situation where the woman lied about something and they found out that what they thought was true was actually not true, or something, whatever. And then it spills on social media and we all see it and we're like, wow, And while we are still trying to, like, before we can even say, but this is wrong. I mean, if this is true, this is wrong. Before we can even say that, you begin to hear these men say, all women are horrible, all women are bad, fear women are so unaccountable, they are so, and then they begin to say all sort of rubbish. Worse than rubbish, toxic things against women. Generally. They're not specific. Generally. And we are like, oh, hello. Dude, are you all right? Is it that that is the only woman that was on the planet that you could have chosen? Or you chose this woman out of all the options that were available to you? Let me say that again. You chose this woman out of all the options that were available to you. And now that you are seeing Pepe, you are seeing Shege, now that things have turned on his head and you don't like the what you're seeing, you are now making it an all women affair. Are you daft or something? Like, how dare you? And they say all women are like, women cannot be trusted to be faithful, and you're like, what? And you, as a woman who had made that tough commitment, not that it was easy. You made that tough commitment to remain chaste, to be celibate. You are wondering, you and other fellow good women association, you are looking at yourselves, one another, you are wondering, who is this guy talking to? And some of us will be like, please, 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 whoever hurt you, have the courage to tag the person. I'm sure the person is on social media. Tag the person. How can you make it an every woman thing? What is wrong with y'all? And you find these same men, they open YouTube channels, they say all sorts of horrible things about women, especially black women. They don't dare, they always make that distinction, and I understand why. It is easier. There are little or no consequences to disrespecting black women. But you cannot disrespect women of other ethnicities because you are afraid of what their men will do to you. But since you are, quote and unquote, the men of the black community, you feel like it is your right to spit venom and speak death to your women. Because, there is this talk, especially in the African black community, that there are more black women to black men. And what that means is that, sir, you had, like I said, choices, a plethora of choices. This was not an issue of there were no women around. No, there were. But out of all the women that were available to you, this was the one you chose. So whatever happens is on your doorstep. Now, these same men, mind you, would not have something good to say about a woman who makes a wrong choice in a relationship. They will say things like, well, she made her choice, it's her responsibility, she should choose better. That's the statement they use for black women, choose better. But when it comes to them, they make it the fault of the black woman for whatever it is that went wrong in their own personal relationship. And you're like, is it that she's the only woman that said yes to you? Was she the only woman you asked? Like, was she the only, like, you had women available to you? At least that is the statistics y'all keep telling us as an excuse to go polygamous. Right? As an excuse to go polygamous, you just tell us things like, oh, a man can't stay with one woman and stuff. And then when your choices now begin to backfire, you begin to say horrible things about black women. And I just think it's irresponsible. It's not just what I think, it's actually irresponsible, because on one hand, you tell women to choose better when they make wrong choices. Sorry, I was checking what I had on fire. You tell women to make better choices, right? But you, when you make a wrong choice, you don't tell yourself to make a better choice, right? You don't tell yourself to make a better choice. Instead, you blame the whole gender for what happened to you. And that is where you got my attention. Because I am one of those women who would not get angry at a man because he picked somebody that was opposite of what he said he is. Like, if you are a high value man and you pick a woman that does not have the characteristics of a high value man or your category of high value man, I just look like, oh wow, interesting, and I move on. I don't get on that, Where you now rile me is where you now get into this talk of all women are. No, sir, you don't get to go all women are. Women cannot even say all men has come in peace, and you guys would come out and start, saying, well, you made the wrong choice, all men are not like that, I'm not going to come out and say the same thing that all women, I am not going to validate my existence to any man. I am I'm African. And when it comes to Africans, we are part of our uniqueness is our spiritual intelligence, our connection to spirituality. Like, we when it comes to spirituality, we are very, very invested in it. We're invested and we're interested in it. We're invested and interested in spirituality. And so when you have spiritual intelligence, you're able to see beyond the physical. You perceive things beyond the physical. So if you cannot see for yourself, you can't tell the difference between a good woman and a woman in the works person, that is not my fault. You're the one who should develop yourself and do better. It reminds me of something Dr. Omar was saying the other day. Now, understand, I'm not 100% in support of everything Dr. Umar Justice says, but when it comes to the politics of global politics and the disadvantage that the black race have been placed in, I listen to him because, it sort of confirms some of the things that I have suspected already. Like, there are a few things I don't agree with him on. The issue of polygamy, no. The issue of African spirituality, no. Count me out. I'm not interested in that one. I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a Christian. That is this all the spirituality that I need. In fact, that is the best spiritual connection I can ever have. And I have been blessed. I've enjoyed it so far, and I've not even scratched the surface yet. I'm just starting. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I feel so much at peace, right? You understand? So I don't agree with him on that one. I don't agree with him on the polygamy thing. I don't. I believe in a monogamous relationship. Anything outside that is being unfaithful, and it does not help build anything. People who have built nations, they are not going around having two wives, three wives, and all. The people we call the first world nations, how many of them have two wives? Let's start with that. How many of them have two wives? So where would we now say we are, like, how has having two multiple wives benefited the black race since history till now? What has it benefited us? We just it's like we just bear more children. We bore more children for some people to come and enslave and use to build their own countries, to build their own civilization. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, it's just like being a cock rel among hens. For those who are in a Greek, pardon my, so that's how I see it. But he said something interesting the other day in a show where he said men should take responsibility for the wrong choices of women in men, and the guys were not having it. They were not having it, and I'm like, I agree, because black men expect us, all women, to take responsibility for every woman that has hurt them. So I don't know. For me, I think, oh yeah, if I am going to, I'm supposed to, when women now say we are not all like that, and you say, oh, one thing black women don't have is accountability. You want me to admit, when you say accountability, you want me to admit to an offense I did not commit. That is what you're asking me to do, and I would never do that. Sir, tag the person that hurt you if you have that courage. But you have the courage to throw shade at all black women, but you don't have the courage to name the person who hurt you, say what they did to you, call them out. You don't call them out. No, instead you tag all black women as everything you think your ex is or exes are. But no, you're not the problem, apparently. You're not. You who have exes, that all of them did you dirty according to you. You are the good one, right? But the rest, like whatever it is you have with your exes, is between you and your exes. When you now make it every black woman's, you now think that every black woman must pay for that. That's bull crap. And as much as I'm a bit skeptical, I had to start in the part one of this video. I had to start with the talk of the Indian men. They may not have a good level of respect for women of other ethnicities. They might not respect black people as much, but you don't hear them say that in public. They choose their spouses quietly without shouting at the rooftop the reason why they did that and why every other woman is not good enough. They don't like to talk about that. In fact, if you try to call them out on it, they will deflect straight away. They will deflect. But when a black man chooses a white woman, a Latino woman, a European woman, he is going to turn himself into an expert of women all of a sudden and begin to talk about how black, and begin to do a compare and contrast between non-black women and black women, and begin to say all sorts of horrible things about black women as his reason for not being with one of them. I can't even say who raised you because there is no point. Whoever raised you, you're an adult now. You ought to raise yourself. There is an African proverb from southwest Nigeria that says, when a child is born, a child that is going to be a responsible adult, you go through a personal rebirth. You have been born, then you go through a personal rebirth. It's an indication that when you become an adult, you cease to have the right to blame your upbringing, to blame your behavior on your upbringing. Because you'll be like, if your foundation was bad, now that you're an adult, why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you go through a rebirth? Why didn't you rebirth yourself? So that you become a better version of what your foundation or your initial birth has set you up to be. You didn't do that. Because of course, you have the alibi, black women, to hang your cross on. Well, bro, we all have our own crosses to carry. Carry yours. I don't see you carrying mine. I don't see you crying. There ain't that many black men that are protective of black women generally. So you see that a black woman is just her and her savior. It's just her and God. She can hardly depend on the men in her society to cover up for her, to to protect her, to be that sentry behind her that deters other men from disrespecting her. And then you won't want to leave us alone again. Like, you've made your choices. Congratulations. We are happy that you are in love and you are happy. But unfortunately, it seems that some of you are not. Because when things go north or south or wherever, you now start a campaign against black women and start to see all kinds of horrible things about them. It shows because it's coming from you. You know, Jesus said something quite interesting. He said, it's not what a man eats that pollutes him, but what comes out of him. So if what you have to say is horrible things about black women, what does that make you? It came out from your mouth. It came from inside of you out. That makes you a horrible person. At the end of the day, it makes you a horrible person. So please, when you make your preferences, whatever it is your issues are, deal with it. Don't go all women are, black women, Name the person. Name the person or the persons involved and then trash it out. Don't make it an all black women affair. No, sir. When you were picking your woman, you did not call all of us. So don't you dare. Don't you dare ever make it a black woman thing again. Because if you do, we're not going to, I don't know about other black women, but I'm not going to explain myself to you. You are going to get the advice and the tongue lashing that you did not come for. Because I will tell you, like, dude, did you call me? Did you seek my counsel before picking the woman you picked? So how dare you make this an all black thing? Are you so afraid of her that you can't mention her, but you make it an all black women thing? That's the thing. Like, are you all afraid of your exes that you cannot mention them? Or maybe you are the one at fault here. And you can't, and because you're with a baddie, she refuses to be done bad. Yeah? You tried to dish out bad to her and she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And she was out. And then you got bitter. Deal with your issues, please. Just like you expect black women to deal with their issues, deal with yours. That being said, guard your hearts with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. All this conversation we are having is from the heart. Ladies and gentlemen, it's from the heart. They that know their God, they shall be strong and they shall do exploits. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom.